welcome to our show, and thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today.
No problem.
So, Nick, tell us a little bit about this film. Tell us a little bit about how it all came about for you from the very beginning.
Look, I have been a filmmaker for probably about 30 years, mainly in documentary, promotional sort of things, and so, obviously making a feature is a natural progression. But my wife, who's also an actress, Joanne Samuel, she was in the original Mad Max, opposite Mel, and plus she's done a lot of other films. She runs a youth theatre, Three Sisters Youth Theatre, and so I've been filming a little bit of stuff. We started up a film class, and I just started working with a lot of sort of younger, they're now teenagers, but they started, working with Joe when they were about 5 or 6. So, they're now sort of 18 and 19, and they've got a lot of chops as an actor. So it was just one of those things where someone had written a script, and I wasn't thinking about making a film, but I had these amazing actors in front of me, and an incredible location where I live, and so that sort of started the idea. Really started the wheels going around in your head, the cogs.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, your wife Joanne, and you also worked with your son on these films as well. Was that always the plan, to make it a family kind of affair to work on this?
No, it sort of just has come about. I mean, I was a musician when I met Jo. Obviously, she's the one that's been in the film industry as far as the family goes, most of her life. But I was a musician when I first married her, and then I just progressed into film. And then my older son, Jesse, he then, sort of left school and also became a musician, and then and he did the same sort of things. So it's just been really a natural thing. We haven't pushed it or planned anything. It's just everyone's sort of fallen into it through their own sort of, I suppose, ambition and passion of wanting to do that.
Does it make it easier working with family? Because I know some families love working together, and then you get other families, and I'm thinking of the Gallagher brothers here from Oasis, where it becomes a nightmare. What was it like working with family?
Look, it's fantastic. There's always the conflict, I suppose, or the difference of opinion. We're all fairly opinionated of what we like and what we don't like, and there's the constant discussion about, the best way to do it, or this won't work, and why you're doing it that way, and but other things. But we're through that, we also encourage each other, and we also sort of work independently as well. It's not like we're all working on the same film, doing the same job. It's we come together and work, like the three of us worked on the last film that Jesse did. I was the cam operator, Jesse was directing, and Joe was co-directing with him, just sort of watching his back a little bit. And we had a ball, and on the day, there's never an issue.
Yeah.
It's more when you're sitting around with a glass of wine or something later going, if you'd done this, or maybe that could have worked. But I think that's a natural thing. You want to be able to push each other, I suppose, and have discussions where you could be changed, or your view could, you could see something from a different viewpoint.
Definitely. Now, The Ninth Order is the film that you've just directed. Tell us a little bit about the story of the film and where that story started for you.
Well, I've lived in the Blue Mountains since 1986, and it's quite because, I don't know, maybe because it's on the top of a hill, and it's on a ridge, but it is quite a spiritual place, and there's, I think I heard a while back there was a discussion on the ABC, and they were sort of saying that I think it's the second biggest place for covens in New South Wales, and I'd certainly believe that. There's always been a strong spiritual feeling up here, and I suppose, you know, a high place attracts a spiritual thing from all walks of life, you know, from the dark side to the light side. So it's always been something that sort of intrigued me, and obviously because I've lived here for a long time, the whole feel of the place, the mist and the rain, and the you know, sometimes when that mist sits in the valley or rolls over the hills, it's quite an incredible place. So that sort of visually sort of got me to make the film, or inspired me, I suppose. And on the dark side, that became the story. So it's really about a girl, Jada's father, who left her when she was 5, and she's not heard from him since, and until a school counsellor, Mr. Harris, informs her that the police have found her father dead. And so that's basically thrown her world into a supernatural world where she's left an amulet by her father's best friend in a box, and that amulet is something that sort of propels her into a space outside of time, where she sort of meets her grandfather, who's played by Colton, Johnny Jarrett from Wolf Creek. He plays her grandfather, and yeah, it's sort of through the film she learns through that to forgive her father. So there's a big, strong character arc of forgiveness. And she's also got a couple of best friends that sort of, one of them goes missing and the other one helps her sort of solve all the clues. So it's a bit like a coming of age film, where there's the relationship of these kids in the contemporary world, but it's also got a bit of the thriller wrapper around it, that sort of takes them into a bit of a supernatural place.
Yeah, so Helena Jones plays Jada. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered Helena as an actress.
Well, Helena was one of the kids. The three sort of leads. Well, Helena is the lead, but the other girls, Sophie Clement and Faith Burke, who play alongside her, all those three girls came out of Three Sisters Youth Theatre, and they were probably the older students. I mean, they started off young, but they were definitely, when I did the film, was sort of, you know, the older students there. They were 17, 18, 19. And we'd done a year ago, we did a little bit of during our film class, we did a web series with them. So we started sort of working and filming, and it was sort of, I realised, you know, actually how good they were in front of a camera. And I suppose that's what sort of inspired me, especially Helena, giving her the lead. So I got someone to write the script around them. I said, this is an idea of a story. This is the girl I want to play the lead. These are the other two girls alongside her. And so they wrote the script around those girls.
Oh, awesome. Now, I've had the pleasure of meeting John Jarrett a few times over the years and interviewing him, and I found him to be such an amazing guy and such a nice guy, and he plays such horrific guys on screen. How did you find working with John?
Oh, well, I've known John for a long time. I met John, my wife, Joanne, and John have been friends since the 70s.
Yeah.
And so I've known John for a long time, just as a friend. And I did a little bit of work with him on and off through when he was doing Better Homes and Gardens with Noni. And yeah, I've found him. Yeah, he's awesome to work with. With Johnny himself, because we know each other so well, he always gives me a bit of a hard time. So when he's on set, there's always a bit of, you know, he's always sort of looking at me going, come on, whenever you're ready. Have you got it together yet? You know, and there's all the sarcastic remarks coming at you 24/7. So he keeps you, you know, on his toes. that sort of, that's always good to work with him. But everyone else loved working with him, and obviously he's been around for a long time. So I think with the younger kids, it was nice to have him on set because it sort of definitely gave them something to sort of look up to, and it was a really good feeling every day that he was on set. So that was great. We have a good time.
Yeah. Now, you used the Blackmagic cameras working on this film as well. Tell us a little bit about what they were like to work with.
Look, they were great. I used a combination of the Mini Ursa 4.6K, and because I took about 18 months to make the film for a number of reasons, because we didn't have a big budget, and we had to sort of do things when people were available, and we also had COVID in the middle of that. I started filming a bit before the first lockdown happened, so we filmed for a while, and then we had to stop for a couple of months, and then we started up again slowly, and it made it easier because we're in a small community, so it was easier to manage venues and all that sort of thing with restrictions of filming and those sort of things. But using the Blackmagics were great. They always are. I still use them, and I started using them a number of years back in some docos. As Johnny and I are doing a documentary at the moment called Wake and Film, and it's basically the history of Australian cinema. So we've been doing lots of interviews with people like Mel Gibson and Bruce Beresford and John Seal, all the directors and cinematographers and actors. But so I've shot all that on Blackmagic as well, and I just love them. I obviously for me, I did a lot of stuff on film years ago, and so when I came into the digital world, I was always trying to find something that had that sort of film look about it. I hated the really poppy digital, in-your-face sort of photography. It didn't. It just looked fake.
Yeah.
So that sort of gravitated me towards the Blackmagic. I just think they've got a look about them that is different to the other things, to some of the other cameras I see. And so yeah, I suppose with all that sort of thing, it's just it's what you like. It's a personal thing, but we used the Blackmagics on Jesse's film as well, and that's come up really beautiful. It's different cinematographer and a different way of lighting, and than what I did. My stuff's quite moody and quite sort of dark and shadowy, whereas his stuff's a bit more glossy. But the blacks were used on both, and the results are amazing.
Awesome. So what would your advice be for young filmmakers out there? Would you recommend that they go out and use the Blackmagic cameras?
Oh, look, I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what camera you use. If I'm coming purely from a filmmaking point, you got to sort of try and find the best thing for you. But yeah, I mean the price point for the Blackmagic, you definitely get a lot of bang for your bucks. And if you put some nice lenses on the front of them, they'll definitely give you good results. And that they're easily capable of producing feature films. But my advice on young filmmakers is just try and do as many things and think outside the square, because it's very difficult as a young filmmaker, or even an old filmmaker for that matter, speaking from my own point, but unless you've got a lot of runs on the board to try and get funding to make a film, it's very difficult.
Yep.
So sometimes if you've got a good idea, or you start with having some friends and you can create something, that I suppose what's changed in the industry now is being able to have access to cameras like the Blackmagic, because they are so accessible. that it makes it a lot easier to be able to create something yourself without a lot of money up front. You know, you don't have to have, you know, millions of dollars in your budget and 25 people on your crew. You can think outside the square, and, you know, depending on the film. There's lots of ways of trying to get an end result, you know, without having to sort of hope that one day you're going to get some funding. And, you know, if you do have, you know, some talent, and you do create something that's half decent and that's got something about it, it could easily launch your career to a point where, you know, one day people are going to be giving you funding.
Definitely. Now, Nick, to finish off the interview, when can we expect to see the Ninth Order for the cinema audience out there?
Oh, look, we're in post at the moment. We've been in post for the last sort of 8 months. We've got a fine cut. We're just at the process. We're sort of in the process. We're probably 2 or 3 months away. We're just doing colour grade and sound mix, but I haven't got a distributor as such. So I purposely thought I wanted to wait for the film to be finished, so that no matter who I put it in front of, it's not like they're seeing a teaser and going, oh, it's great, come back when it's finished, which most of them would say. So I've just purposely waited until I've got it in my hand, and then I'll go out and shop it around and sort of take it from there. So to answer your question, you know, it's definitely going to be finished this year. But as far as in the cinema, that's still to be decided yet.